recognizing the greatest chair in the history of chairwomanship. Reasons for us getting together tonight are all very valid. And we need to motivate ourselves to win, to redirect this country, and to bring back some sanity to government. So your presence here is critical. Your efforts over the next 25 or 26 days is essential. And we know that we can count on all of you for your support and your enthusiasm. But we have another reason for getting together tonight, and that's to hear the words of a great man, Jeffrey Lewis. Jeffrey Lewis earned his law degree and his master's in gerontology with distinctions and has never stopped learning or striving to make the world a better place. For more than 30 years, he has stood in the middle of many political storms, working as the guy people often hear about but rarely see. He has helped design policies for national figures like Senator John Heinz and presidential nominee John Kerry. Through years of study and countless experiences, he has become one of the nation's foremost healthcare experts who understands the balance between the need to provide healthcare and the difficulties in paying for it. In fact, he probably worries more about small businesses' ability to pay for their healthcare than most small business owners. Having written and published literally hundreds of articles, Jeff's work can be seen in op-ed pieces across the nation more than most United States senators. And his message is always consistent. He talks substantively about important policy matters that should inspire bipartisan cooperation. And in this increasingly partisan society, his voice becomes more unique and all the more valuable. For the past 20 years, he has served as the Chief of Staff to Teresa Heinz and as the President of the Heinz Foundation, where he oversees the Foundation's efforts on a wide range of issues, from aging to the arts, from the entertainment to healthcare, with particular emphasis on women's healthcare issues. And unlike many others who once served on Capitol Hill and later turned to more, shall we say, superficial functions, Jeff has done something that most never do. He has continued to advocate for real, substantive solutions to complex policy matters. He has talked openly and honestly about the need for greater political discourse on a bipartisan basis. He has argued against the positions, at times, of both Republicans and Democrats, and always in favor of all American solutions. He always works to save and protect high-tech jobs like those here in New Jersey, and endlessly works to improve the civility of politics and in our standard of living. Today, in typical Lewis style, Jeff combines his expertise and his passion and is working across the state of New Jersey, helping mayors achieve solutions to address the needs of the uninsured and in particular those with chronic diseases. Truly, his career and his experiences are worthy of our respect, and we are honored to have him in Somerset County today. And please join me in welcoming our good friend, Jeffrey Lewis.
Thank you, Z, for everything. Let me digress for a moment before I talk substantively, and thank all of you. As Chief of Staff for Teresa Heinz, I just want to say thank you. In 2003 and 2004, we campaigned across America to elect John Kerry president, and we almost got there. And we campaigned our hearts out of New Jersey, and New Jersey was enormously helpful to John Kerry, but you warmly embraced Teresa Heinz. And for that, I could never pay New Jersey back enough to say thank you. So thank you. And thank you for the honor to be here tonight and to share some ideas with you. With less than a month before the election, I want to talk tonight about building a future together. One that is not built on the cup of tea that you drink, but rather on a clarion call for reasonableness, civility, and a dose of humility. Civility to me is a willingness to listen, to consider the other person's point of view, and while there may be disagreement, it is done with respect. What's on the line in this election is nothing less than the idea of America. It is about what this country stands for, in our own eyes, in the eyes of the world as well. 20 years ago, I enjoyed the company of elected officials from both parties. Both chambers, who earlier on that very same day had argued vehemently on the floor of the Senate over the positions on a specific issue. But out of mutual respect for each other's position and accomplishment, they were great friends off the floor. Americans in recent months have witnessed a disturbing series of political events. From a governor who believes that bullying a heckler is the proper path to the White House, to members of Congress who just now understand the fiscal implications of the health care legislation that they passed but failed to listen to their constituents about, to political candidates and elected officials who openly use the word liar. Never in my lifetime have I ever seen a member of Congress use the word liar until recently, and nothing could be more wrong. We used to live at a time when the vibrancy of debate was exciting and challenging. Not that you had to agree, but rather consider the varying points of view being offered. Today, that system has broken down. We are watching a growing band of angry extremists who masquerade these days as grassroots populists, supposedly motivated only by a desire to lower taxes, less government, and more freedom. We have stopped following the simplest forms of respect. But the path that is too often followed is one of ignorance and intolerance. The economy, after all, the rhetoric, finger-pointing, and additional dollars, has moved from a free fall to pretty much standing still. This should be an honest occasion for some humility and a little common sense. But common sense is a little uncommon in Washington these days. Instead, from the Congress to the Congress to the White House, to former governors and presidential wannabes, each and every one offers critical perspective on Republicans as doctors of no, and Democrats as equally rabid partisans. And in the end, the nation's fiscal health remains on a delicate tightrope. Absent from all the rhetoric is a willingness to develop and implement a bipartisan effort to solve problems that are in the national interest. The Republicans hope that the November elections will allow them to gain complete control of the Congress. But the image of the Republican Party is still so fractured, they are willingly undergoing a rebranding exercise from the outside. They have embraced the Tea Party as a fascinating, enabling exercise. With a lot of support among independents, they are building on and even inflaming the fires of the economic unrest in America. Further, many of the Tea Party candidates want to destroy parts of the nation's social fabric, such as Social Security and minimum wage. Tea Party candidates have successfully played to the pocketbooks of large numbers of Americans, particularly independents, who helped elect President Obama, but who today have either lost their jobs or deeply worried about their jobs will disappear, much like their investments or their 401k plans. Democrats are hoping by making specific actions and taking specific steps that they can survive this Republican doom and gloom exercise. All of this is taking place at a time when every American family is simply asking themselves, what is our economic future? Today, more than ever, we are looking for and hope for real leadership. in the absence of bipartisanship. The political pontification from the left to the far right is not creating jobs, is not offering Americans any sense of hope. In the process, leaders from across all sides of the aisle stand and continue to question the president. This political misadventure is more representative of impoverished politics. Now is not a time for intellectual austerity. Years ago, when Congress tried to make the political football out of the solvency of Social Security, Senators John Heinz, a Republican from Pennsylvania, and Senator Patrick Moynihan, a Democrat from New York, came together to put aside partisanship to help broker a successful resolution. Their efforts were not focused on their individual political parties, rather the common good for all Americans. This was not only the demonstration of real leadership, but it also exemplified two congressional leaders who put the interests of the nation ahead of partisan politics. America's economic well-being is indeed quite fragile. There is no one right answer. If there were, the Obama administration and/or congressional Republican leadership would have put it forward and blistered the media with all the reasons why. We have allowed others to use the current political and economic climate to declare war on ourselves. Americans have gone away from how democracy should work and focused on disagreement and an unwillingness to work together. Clearly, political leaders on both sides of the aisle have let us down. But that does not mean, and it cannot mean, that as a nation we embrace a small minority of those running for political office that espouse extreme viewpoints in order to win an election. Governing is a grueling exercise. It requires expertise and compromise. Responsible governing is rarely swift, and it always requires more than common sense. If faith drives our politics, at the very least, let's make it faith of inclusion, of genuine compassion, humility, justice, and accountability. Elected officials know they are only one vote away from retirement, but for those who put the country ahead of their own political party, there is a legacy that no one can refute. Senator John Heinz and Senator Pat Moynihan demonstrated that when they created the last Social Security solution. Today, each of us must ask ourselves whether the voices of the past can influence the politics of today, and hope that new bipartisan leaders help emerge to help create an economic path for America's future. But solving the problems of the nation is more than just about civility or bipartisanship. It's about leadership. It strengthens and unites the fabric of the nation, not further or shredding the fabric and widening the gaping holes that already exist. I've spent a lifetime creating solutions to some of the nation's most vexing problems that we face, from healthcare to retirement security, to age discrimination to the rights of the disabled. For better or for worse, I believe in big ideas that solve problems that people and families face. I wanted to close with some big ideas to inspire, to engage, or perhaps enrage you. But more than anything else, to keep you voting and to keep you involved. As men, and I speak to the men in the audience tonight, we need to lead a charge into 2011 that sets the tone for the future. As part of that charge, we have two very specific responsibilities. First, we must begin in earnest to walk alongside women across the country and agree to help them not break, but shatter the glass ceiling. It is simply wrong that in 2010, that has still not been accomplished. Discrimination of any kind has no home in this country, and economic discrimination must be stopped. If we do not act, millions of more women will end up as part of the population of bag ladies when they retire. Second, women have earned the right to their opinions. They should not be called opinionated. They should be called smart, engaging, just as men are. Civility begins at home. The rights of women in this nation are being trampled on from the home to the office, from Congress to City Hall. If men do not make this a national priority, then shame on us. national debate on Social Security begins anew. We need to change that conversation to have women's retirement security as one of our top priorities. We must recognize, we must recognize, respect, and reward women who stay at home and raise a family, care for aging parents or disabled children, and reward them with partial Social Security credits for the work that they do, instead of years of accumulated zeros when their retirement checks are calculated. Raising a family or caring for an aging or disabled parent is a full-time job. It is time we recognize it and truly respect it. Fourth, while some have argued that the needs of the uninsured in this country presented a national crisis, I am probably the one person who would disagree. The real crisis facing families is long-term care. As a nation, we have failed to build a community-based infrastructure to help families care for elderly parents or disabled people. Far too often the answer is a nursing home. But what they forgot to tell you is the costs are prohibitive and inhumane. Rather than fill institutions, we still need to think about creating systems to help families care for loved ones in homes, in their own homes, but not in institutions. And finally, I may be the only foundation president in the country who will stand before a crowd like this and tell you how proud I am to work with the pharmaceutical industry. They represent a huge growth industry, both generally and in the biotech fields. If we are to sustain pharmaceutical manufacturer jobs, if we are to grow the New Jersey economy, then Democrats and Republicans must join together to retain and grow jobs in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, as opposed to encourage them to take those jobs to other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I would hope that it's an opportunity that we all come together and focus on the interests of the nation, that we put the struggle within each of us behind us, that we instead focus on the common good, always remembering, if not now, then when. This is our challenge, and this is our opportunity. Thank you.
Great job.
I think we can all see why I was so excited to bring my friend up here from Washington to speak to us. He has great insight, and I hope he's encouraged us to think of things in a slightly different way. And although that was a very deep talk, which I'm sure is going to provoke a lot of thinking on all of our behalves,